gang, this map scales video is going to be all about map scale. And what is map scale? You might be wondering. Well, map scale is basically a tool that we can use to estimate distances between two different points on a map. It's a pretty useful tool because if you're going to set out on a little adventure, you want to know just how far that adventure is going to be. You don't want to look at a map and assume that your adventure is only going to be, your little hike that you're going to take. When you go leaf peeping, you don't want that adventure to turn in like a 3-day extravaganza and you get lost in the woods. So let's talk briefly about map scale. Typically when you look on a map, you will see a little bar that looks like this. And it looks almost like a bar graph maybe, and it's usually down in one of the lower corners, and it will be used to help you measure or estimate distance. So this map, you can see it goes 0, 5, 10, and the unit of measurement is miles because we're here in America and we usually use miles even though the rest of the world uses the metric system and kilometers, and I digress. That's another video for another day. So there are two different types of map scale maps. You will have a large scale map which has a large amount of detail. It has more detail on a large scale map, although it does show a smaller bit of area. So for example, here on my lovely map that you can see, I've got like a little quaint town. We've got Main Street, 1st, 2nd, 3rd Street, all of that good stuff. We got our house, we got our lake, we got our tree, and then we see that one little unit of measurement here is the equivalent of 50 feet on my large scale map. Compare that with my small scale map, which has less detail, but it does show a larger area. And here we can see we've got like Highway 94 and 241, STMA, Buffalo, Monty. And here, instead of, this much being 50 feet, this much is 5 miles. Very different. Both maps are great. They both serve a purpose. This one is obviously much better for navigating a community, right? Because it shows that high amount of detail on that large scale map. And this one's probably much better for navigating community to community. So you can imagine this is like the zoomed out, small scale, less detail version, and then we enhance. And we get to our large scale, more detailed version. Now that we've got that kind of squared away, let's take a look at actually how we estimate. Because if you noticed, I was doing a lot of this finger thing where I was holding up my fingers to try and measure distance. That'll work in a pinch, but if you're out in the woods, I don't recommend that. In fact, what I recommend doing is what we're going to do right now to measure distance, and that is we are going to create a scale strip. And all you need for a scale strip really is something to write with and something to write on, and that'll do it. And let's just take a look at this map that we have here. Notice on the left, what type of map is that? Well, that is a large scale map right here because that's a small scale map. I goofed, right? That is a small scale map on this side, right? Because it's showing a huge amount of area. We can see our unit is 10 miles compared with our map on the right of Washington, D.C., showing downtown Washington, D.C. That's a large scale map that's showing a lot more detail. But let's say that, for example, we were down here in, Annandale. And let's say we wanted to go from Annandale to Arlington. And we wanted to know how far that was. Like I said, you could, do the old finger estimate thing, but that's not ideal. So what you're going to do, you're going to take a sheet of paper. You're going to want a sheet of paper that has a straight edge and preferably one with a nice right corner. And what you're going to do, since we can't physically pick up that scale strip and move it around, we're going to create our own. So you're going to take your sheet of paper, and we want to know, again, Annandale to Arlington in miles. We want to know Annandale to Arlington in miles, how far away it is. And so what we do, we put our scale strip, and notice my corner of the page, it lines right up there at 0. And so I'm just going to make a little mark there, and I'm going to write 0. And then we are going to make our next mark at 5 and at 10. And don't forget to label your unit of measurement. I can hear your 6th grade science teachers hollering at you now. Units matter. Anyway, so we go from Annandale to Arlington. And so we just now take our scale strip and we plop it down there on Annandale, and we kind of maneuver it just so, and we see it's somewhere between 5 and 10. So again, we're going to use a little number sense. We're going to estimate, and I would say Annandale to Arlington, that's probably about 7 miles. between Annandale and Arlington, right? It's a little over, it's a little bit about halfway between 5 and 10, so we'll call it 7 miles. Let's say I also wanted to take a look and maybe measure the distance between Bethesda and Silver Spring. So again, it's the same concept. We've got our scale strip, it's ready to go, and we're going from Bethesda to Silver Spring, and there again, we see, I don't know, that's probably about 6 miles, right? And I'm just going to write that on the map there. So again, that's essentially how you do it. That's how you create a scale strip. You bring it down here, you line it up, and there you go. Let's do one more, and we're going to throw a little wrinkle in this, a little, you'll see. So let's say we wanted to go from the White House, and now we're on our large scale map, and we wanted to go to the White House, 600 Pennsylvania Avenue, all the way over to the Convention Center. And we need to know how far that distance is in kilometers. So again, we take a look, and we're going to make our scale strip. We've got our sheet of paper, again, straight edge, and we just plop that down here on our map scale. We started at right about 0, right there. And here's where it gets tricky, because notice we've got two scales. We've got a mile scale and a kilometer scale on the bottom. So since I'm using kilometers, I got to make sure that my hash marks are based on the kilometer measurement. And so when I do that, I put those hash marks on there, and we see it goes 0.25 and 0.5 kilometers. But we're going, like I said, from the White House to the Convention Center. And when we do that, oh no, what has happened? Our scale strip is not big enough. And I know what some of you are doing. You're like, oh, I got it. You just put your pen down, and then you just re-estimate. You could do that. Yeah, you could totally do that if you wanted the demons to get you. But we don't want the demons to get you. We want to be very accurate here. So instead, we take our scale strip, and instead of starting it at 0, we bring it all the way back to where it, it ended at a half a kilometer, and we bring that over to 0, and we just extend our scale strip, and we know, doing a little math, it goes 0, 0.25, 0.5, 0.75, and then 1.0, 1.0 kilometers. And now we can go from the White House right here to the Convention Center, and it's not quite big enough here. It's not quite big enough, but we do see it's just about 1, right? Just about 1 kilometer. And we could estimate it from there. So that's how you create a scale strip. Again, you just really want a sheet of paper that has a straight edge, and you just got to be mindful of your units of measurement and where you're putting those hash marks. If you think you got it, I would say hop in on phase 2. You should have this little strip of paper, phase 2, and you should have a map that looks like this. And what I want you to do now is just go ahead and continue 1 through 7 on here. I am going to do a couple more. You're definitely welcome to be done with this video, but I'm going to do a couple more. I'm just going to do the first 2 on that little sheet of paper there just to walk through it one more time. Let me know if you have any questions. Happy map scaling. So here we go. Question number 1. How far in miles, and again, unit of measurement matters, how far in miles is it between Washington, D.C. and New Carrollton? So we're actually going to be using this big map here, Washington, D.C. And the surrounding areas, and we need to know Washington, D.C. to New Carrollton. So, and we need it in miles. I'm going to take my slip of paper, and I'm going to put that down, and we've got a 0, 5, 10, and I'm going to put my numbers on there, my unit of measurement, and I'm going to go from, again, Washington, D.C. to New Carrollton. I take my scale strip, I plop it down there, and we see that, oh, I don't know, it's just shy of 10. If you call it 10, that's probably good. I'm going to call it 9-ish, which is a technical term, ish, miles, because it's roughly 9 miles between Washington, D.C. and New Carrollton. Let's do one more. How far in kilometers is it between the Washington Monument and the Smithsonian? And so to go between the Washington Monument and the Smithsonian, we need kilometers again. So I'm coming down here. I'm going to use this map. Notice I'm using a new edge. Can't use the same scale on different maps. That won't work. You'd have a bad time. And I'm putting on my hash marks right there, 0.25 and 0.5 km. And now I'm going to go between the Washington Monument and the Smithsonian. So I locate the Washington Monument right here. And then I need to find the Smithsonian, which I see very clearly is Where is that Smithsonian? There it is. And I go to put it out there, and again, I see it's not quite big enough. My scale strip doesn't work. So I'm just going to extend it right away. I'm not even going to worry about that because I know how to extend a scale strip. 0.75 and 1, and now I go between the monument and the Smithsonian, and I see it's just a skosh over 0.75 kilometers. I'm going to call it 0.8 km, and I'm not even going to throw the ish on there because I feel confident about that. So there you go. You're going to want to continue on with items 3 through 7 on your map scale. And then, of course, we've got a little map scale practice on your daily learning targets check. That's available to you as well, the maps that you'll need for that. Happy map scaling. Please let me know if you have any questions. I hope you're doing well, enjoying map skills and map scale. Talk to you later. See ya.